Mandan Park District Board meeting to order. Today is Monday, February 12th, 2024. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? Nope. Okay, at this time we'll open up public communication from visitors in the crowd. We have a few people here, but I think you're here for other items. Any other items you want to speak on? Okay, hearing none, we will close that portion of our meeting. Let's move on to minutes. Approval of the January 8th, 2024 regular meeting and the January 19th, 2024 special meeting minutes. Could we look for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve the January 8th, 2024 regular meeting and January 19th, 2024 special meeting minutes.
Motion by Commissioner Freilich,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Mutter. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. All right, moving into item number one, consider for approval the following items with the Mandan Baseball Club, construction and financing agreement, and also bids for diamonds 9 through 12.
Commissioners, as you can see in your packet, there is a contract that was amended and updated by Attorney Ruff. With us today is the Mandan Baseball Club. If they have any specific questions, we'll give them an opportunity to speak. But overall, this project will be very similar to what we did with the lighting project that we just completed at Memorial Ballpark and Memorial Ballpark renovation that we did phase one, or I guess it would be phase two when we did the synthetic turf and the upgrades. So overall, the project as a whole, as you can see, Dave Free's going to give you an update on the specifics related to what's going to happen on the field renovations. But what I wanted to echo would be is how the financing and all this will work. So the Mandan Baseball Club will be 100% responsible for all of the expenses related to the youth complex, with the exception of the $200,000 that the Park District's contributing for the fencing replacement. If you recall, we moved $80,000 of that to, originally it was $280,000. We took 80 of that and reallocated it towards Ferris Field because the bids came in as where they needed to be, so we transferred 80 over there. So there'll be $200,000 from the Park District specifically used for the fencing. The additional dollars will be 100% paid for by the Mandan Baseball Club. Arlen put together the agreement, and Dave kind of worked with Damien and Dave worked together on some of the language that need to be changed. In your packet, it's highlighted in yellow, kind of talks about the dollar amounts that had to be adjusted, and then just as far as the competing baseball teams, which I'll let Dave kind of expand on that in a moment. So how the project will work. So the Park District, as I mentioned earlier, I'm just repeating this so that we fully understand, is not liable for the debt. The baseball club will take the debt out. As you see in the packet, they have a letter from BNC approving them of their financing. As the construction proceeds, obviously has to be approved tonight from the bids. If we get a pay request, let's just say for easy math, $1 million pay request. Terry has done in the past, that $1 million pay request from the contractor will be submitted to the Mandan Baseball Club. The Mandan Baseball Club will be responsible for paying that. Now, they have multiple ways to pay for their debt and their responsibility for the project, either through their gaming or the loan proceeds with BNC Bank. Through BNC, like we did in the past, it's kind of like a construction loan for your home. You're building $1 million home, you're only pulling out $100,000 at a time as those come through each month. They don't want to execute the interest on the loan right away until those dollars are needed. As we know, this project won't start till mid-July. So obviously there'll be minimal expenses coming through between now and July 15th. Once July 15th starts, that's when the larger expenses will start coming through. We know the contractors will have to pay for materials that will be on site, that will be stored. So those are some of the expenses you'll see between now and July 15th. Once July 15th comes, those large expenses will be submitted for payment. Nothing will be ran through the foundation. Just want to clarify, some of our other projects we've had dollars go to the foundation, redirected back to the Park District or the user group for payment. With this specifically, there is no fundraising at this time related to the project. The loan proceeds is all we're kind of talking about here tonight. The loan proceeds will come directly to the Park District. We will make the payment to the contractor like we have for any other project. Yeah, to me, it'll be a very
So
seamless.
it'll be a lot like Memorial Ballpark without the pledges fundraising at this point.
Correct.
I'm assuming that's still going to happen. I guess
Yeah, we
somewhere down the road there'll be some.
So
fundraising.
there is pledge drive that we will be doing, which is separate of this. It's just that hasn't kicked off yet. So the project to approve the bids is the first step. We are giving Baseball Club the opportunity to go out and fundraise. That may be naming rights, that could be press box, could be scoreboards, dugouts. The opportunity is endless for them. We are working with the pledge pamphlet that I think they received last week. Those dollar amounts have not been committed yet in the actual areas that we're looking at. So I don't want to confuse the two, where with the tennis and with the rodeo, that was 100% pledges were paying the debt. This one, the baseball club's responsible for the debt. They will use the pledges on the back end to either reimburse themselves or use those funds, but that's going through the foundation back to the baseball club.
So Terry, last time we did this, I know we had to change some things when we went through our audit. I think a construction line item in our budget. Is there anything that you saw, as an issue with that last time that could make this process easier this time?
I think it sounds pretty straightforward the way Cole has presented it. I don't think we're going to run into any issues.
Okay.
So I just wanted to kind of clarify that standpoint. So with the contract that's presented in front of you, I know we wanted to approve that first. In the contract, if you have specific questions, I guess we would stand for any of those that you may have, but it's pretty straightforward what they're trying to accomplish. And I guess Attorney Ruff, if you want to add any comments with that.
Any major changes from our last agreement with Memorial that,
No, there weren't any. Just changed some numbers and a little bit of the language, and I think Dave will speak to that.
okay.
Good evening, President Metzke, Commissioners. With the amended agreement, we can go through that first. We just changed some numbers from the 2 million projected budget to 5 million. The first one was a 2 million projection, now it's 5 million. And then number 12 in your agreement, we added in there that we would not, I would not rent the facility to basically organizations that compete with the Mandan Baseball Club for kids through the months of basically April through July would be the months I would not rent the facility unless they agreed to that. Otherwise, I have free reign to rent the facility out to other organizations, say like college groups or high school groups that don't compete with, Mandan Baseball Club. So those are the only changes in the agreement. I can answer any questions you would have with the agreement. I'm looking for approval to update this agreement tonight.
So those proceeds right now, when we rent out Memorial, that goes into our vision fund for future. Is that kind of the way this is going to be set up? Same
Yep.
side-
So we're going to
type of
set
structure?
up rental fees once the facility's done that are going to mimic basically Memorial Ballpark for those two fields. And then probably the dirt fields will probably be a different price to rent out, but the turf fields will be the same. And then whatever we have with the baseball club for Memorial Ballpark, we'll do the same thing for those fields too.
Any other questions for Dave?
Dave, and they're sitting out here so they can probably answer. April through July, are you guys planning on doing more youth competition games or just basically for practice and stuff like that?
So basically, April through July is nonstop baseball down there between our Parks and Rec baseball from T-ball through Cal Ripken. They're all-star groups from basically 9-year-olds through 15-year-olds, and then A's Chiefs will probably utilize the turf fields too for practices and things like that now that they're going to be turf. So there's no time to rent that facility out to anybody from April through July. If somebody wants to run a fall league down there, fall games, we're not going to have any issues with that kind of stuff, after basically their seasons are over with. So
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so we want to adopt the agreement first before we get into construction. What are the board's wishes?
I'll make a motion to amend that, the amendment agreement. I hope I said that right.
All right. You want any more in there, Arlen, in that, as far as in a motion?
I think his motion just be that approves the amended agreement.
As presented. Okay. Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Mutter.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Scott. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then, you want to talk construction a little bit?
yeah, so with the agenda documentation I put in place, I'll just kind of go through that with the recommendation for the bids that came in. We had one general bid, that was Northwest Contracting. We had basically multiple turf companies that bid, and then we had two electricals, one we couldn't accept, and then one we didn't accept because it was too high. So going through that, the total budget that we're looking for dollar amount is $4,729,306.74 is the total dollar amount we're looking. And I'm recommending general contractor Northwest Contracting, alternate A, AstroTurf Premium, alternate B, Grandstand Press Box, and electrical Northwest Contracting. So we're looking for approval on those bids. So
Okay. Any other questions for Dave on construction bids?
Dave, was there anything else that those guys want at those diamonds now? I mean, it looks like you've got everything here, but I just want to double check.
So I know talking with the baseball club in the future, they're looking at turf on diamonds 11 and 12. It's just, for one, right now, the cost, and two, the time. We're just not going to have time to do all four if we wanted to get them opened up by 2025 in the spring. So that's why we're doing two. And then hopefully in the future, Brad's got them laid out for turf in the future as far as the fences, because they're at like 229 instead of 225. So we left them at 229 so we can put turf on 11 and 12 without having to move the fences around. So
And were there just two alternates?
Yes.
In the original bid then? So you want both of them at this point?
yep, the alternate A and alternate B are both recommended to approve by the baseball club.
Okay.
Both of those.
Any other questions for Dave or baseball club? We got a couple reps here.
I would just say it's phenomenal that you take the steps as a board to improve our facilities. We obviously appreciate that and look forward to helping with the fundraising as much as we can as far as going out to meet with businesses, because the partnerships have been an important part of the Memorial Ballpark, the rodeo grounds, and all of our facilities. So anything we can do to assist, I'll make myself available.
All right, what are the board's wishes?
I'll make a motion to approve the bids as presented. General contractor Northwest Contracting, including alternate A, AstroTurf Premium, alternate B, Grandstand and Press Box, electrical Northwest Contracting in a total amount of $4,729,306.74.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Melhoff,
Second.
second by Commissioner Scott. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. Commissioner Scott?
Aye.
Commissioner Melhoff?
Aye.
Commissioner Freilich?
Aye.
Commissioner Mutter?
Aye.
Aye for me as well.
Thank
Motion
you.
carries. Thank you, guys. Was there any, last time we did this, obviously knocking that out at the mid part of July, do you foresee any issues with schedules and things like that? I mean, I know our night programs wrap up. I know we've already voted on it, but just, you're able to shut everything down or move things? Is that your plan to?
Yes, Commissioner Meskey, we've been in, several discussions with Park District, Dave and Cole in particular, about those very issues. So I think our plan is our programming will be, and the Park District's programming will be done, mid-July, and it'll be right on track for the construction, so.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And as long as I'm here, I want to express my thanks to the board. I think we're experiencing some awesome times in Mandan. We have some of the best facilities, and it's really cool to see as, a lifelong resident of Mandan, and, commend you guys for your vision and forethought. It's, great things are happening. Also appreciate the relationships that we've had with the Park District. They've been really good to work with. We had a great experience with the Veterans Memorial Ballpark renovation. I see this kind of going the same way.
Yeah.
So thank you all.
And we obviously can't do that without good partnerships with, like you guys and everybody else. And I think we see not only baseball club, but everybody, investing in Mandan, like you said, Damien, that, we have some very good facilities here. And it's because of your guys' hard work, and
Yeah.
we appreciate it too.
Damien, I don't know how many people have drove down there, but putting in those LED lights down there has cleaned that up so much without those guide wires and all that stuff. I really appreciate that. I was down there during one of the frosty days, and it's so much nicer, so thanks for that alone.
Well, and we don't deserve all the credit or even half the credit. The park district, your employees, were the ones responsible for getting that grant, submitting the grant. The grant was approved. Obviously, we were financially responsible for our share, but the legwork wasn't done by us. So, but I agree, it's an awesome thing. And those lights were, many years overdue. So it'll be a really neat and more economical upgrade as well. Commissioner Mutter, you asked a question earlier about some of the concerns in the agreement. And I know it's a little untimely and that agreement was approved already. But the reason that the baseball club had concerns about, who would be using the facility and the competing groups, there's been kind of a movement around the state, with different groups kind of popping up, and they're competing for our players, and our organization or our board, it's been our opinion that if we're going to stick some money in the facilities, we want them to be utilized for our kids, not some competing leagues that are, trying to take our kids from us actually. So, that's kind of the backdrop. That's kind of what's going on around the state, and we're trying to, preserve what we're doing and preserve that for the benefit of our kids. So,
And I think you're going to have people wanting to use those turf fields, especially in the spring. Obviously, not everybody has that luxury of having that. So, obviously, we do want to reserve that for our kids.
And thank you for the clarity, too.
You're welcome. Well, thank you, gentlemen and lady.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
Good luck
evening.
with the project, guys.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on to item 2, update from Big Stick Cigars on the 2023 season.
So Commissioners, as you know, back in June of '23, Ms. Dupree had attended and requested approval to sell her product or provide her product at least 2 golf tournaments that was requested, that the board approved. In her letter in your packet, it talks about on August 25th, she sold units at the Dakota Child Advocacy Center. That was the only one that I'm aware of, unless she wants to share that there's a different one that I'm not, maybe wasn't misinterpreting. But one event took place. There were no concerns associated from Brent or Garrett. I know there was discussions as far as moving forward and things of that nature. As you know, in our policy, we have a no policy tobacco products within 20 feet of our park property, along with sale of tobacco was not allowed. There was a variance that was given, to Ms. Dupree in regards to this. So at this time, I guess I'll let Ms. Dupree kind of talk about why she's here tonight. In your packet, you kind of see some of the information from staff that unfortunately we don't recommend changing our policy, but I think there's some things that we can definitely do to accommodate both needs. So with that, there you go.
Welcome.
Good evening, Commissioners. Well, it was a great year last year. I appreciate the opportunity to have been given 2 golf tournaments, but it was a very busy event season last year for Big Stick Cigars, and we only had the opportunity to be at 1 golf tournament. It's already February of this year, and I am starting to get requests in now. Again, Dakota Children's Advocacy Center, law enforcement, a fire department, on. And I said I have to get an approval, a variance from the Park and Rec Board to be allowed to be there for either your tournament or one of the biggest comments that I received last year from one day was, why can't you be out here every Friday morning? Just give us 1 day a week. It's a legal product, just as legal as all the alcohol and all the branding from the alcohol that's out there. Why can't we have this opportunity to grab our little guilty pleasure that we have when we enjoy golfing and go do this? So with that, I'm just asking respectfully if there could be some type of a variance to allow maybe Friday's sales on either golf tournament or golf course or X amount of golf tournaments, just something so that I can give these tournaments and supporters of cigars this opportunity this summer.
think some people are still reading the letters, and
Good. Thank you.
Well, President Meske, I guess I could add as we're thinking about it here a little bit. So the way the golf course works in the pro shop, as you know, is a contracted employee, Brent is, and we had just renewed his contract for 3 additional years. Part of his contract has the ability to sell goods and services inside there. Previously, our prior golf pro did have the ability to sell tobacco products. When we adjusted our our policy back in the mid 2000s, that individual was selling cigars out there in kind of a smaller humidor type box, and that was the right of the pro to do that. So regardless of what direction you're thinking in regards to a tobacco policy or tobacco to be sold on park property, we have taken into consideration that contract that we are currently under with Brent Weber. If we wanted to have the ability to sell, the way I interpret it, it'd have to be sold by Brent. Now, for tournaments and things of that nature, which I think is kind of what I mentioned previously when I mentioned was a variance, was that right now today, if there's a golf tournament, regardless of whoever's putting the golf tournament on, there are groups who go to the tournament coordinator and they sell $100 or whatever tee boxes for those groups that come out.
And when you say coordinator, you mean charitable groups, or not,
Yeah.
not necessarily Brent himself?
Correct.
It's-
Whoever's
okay.
putting on the tournament, the nonprofit group. So they go out and they sell whatever sponsorships for each tee box. And at that time, there are groups that come forward, and Brent and Garrett have to make a decision what they think's in the best interest of the golf course from the safety standpoint, then the players, and then obviously how it contradicts with any type of sales that we do at the clubhouse. And we've had vendors who want to give away alcohol, and we've had other things that food and things of that nature. So all those things always get brought up. So I think what we could do is, I don't necessarily think we need to change our policy. I think what we need to do is send Ms. Dupree, Brent, and Garrett and talk about how they could work something out if a tournament would like to have her services there. We, as the park district, I don't feel are in the best interest to provide that service. But if a tournament, and we can give that list, and if she wants to reach out to the tournament providers and contact them and see what that relationship would be. We have many, whatever, I don't even know how many tournaments we have a year out there, but I'm sure it's between 25 and 35 tournaments. If those individuals are interested, because some tournaments do not want this type of service.
I can think of, like, the American Cancer Society may not want cigar. You're right, Cole. I mean,
Correct.
I agree with you, but I also think it should be an event, that they support that. And you're right, it's a legal product. So is alcohol, but but if you're fighting, I used the American Heart Association as an example. They may not want that, and it would be against maybe their mission of what they would like to see. So I kind of with you, Cole. I know we have to change a whole policy. Obviously we could make changes for it. We approved a variance for 2 last year, and you said only one got done. It went well.
It
My
went
understanding.
very well.
It went well. It was well received. I think it's kind of like Cole is saying, those organizations that are, putting these things on, if they want you there, or same way we would do with any other vendor. Now, does Brent have a tobacco license?
No, he does not. He has a taxable sales, and then he has the alcohol permit for the city, but he does not have a tobacco. I don't know if there's a separate permit required for that. I guess I'm not familiar.
There is a separate, I do have my city-issued tobacco license as well as my state-issued and my state mobile. And last spring, the city of Mandan, city commissioners approved off-site mobile sales. So when I do go to a tournament or something within the city of Mandan, I have to apply 2 weeks prior and obtain a mobile tobacco license, which is $25. So there's something there. I don't know if that would be also something to work out with the golf pro or who, but I'm just willing to work out whatever to make this happen.
Cole, for all the tournaments, are you saying that she has, if we do it this way, so is she going to pay $100 every tournament she comes, or how are we going to do that?
Well, that would be up to the person who's hosting the tournament. We don't get involved what they charge for their tournament entry fees. So whatever nonprofit organizations putting on a tournament at Prairie West or Mandan Municipal, they set the rates and they'll set the dollar amounts. We don't get involved in that. We just charge them our green fee and cart rent based on what the board has already approved. So if it's $100 and we get the 35, we just deduct that off, and that's their dollars to use for their nonprofit and fundraising opportunities. So I think in this situation, she needs to work with the people who put the tournaments on, because we're not running those tournaments. We're letting them basically lease our golf course, and then we're giving them the opportunities. And that's where I think Garrett and Brent could put together what they think is language and verbiage for the tournament people, because we have a contract with every tournament that says stipulates what the charges are, what the fees, and what they can and cannot do there. And I see this being very similar. And we have people who give away cars, we give away boats, and all those things, and where they can be placed and what they can happen on a golf course, because we have to protect our irrigation system and things. So I see this very similar to that, and allow them to have a little bit of
We're
flexibility.
treating it like we would any other vendor coming in, and most of them are for-profit that come in just like you, and I think that's where, I know we run into those situations with our facilities. Let's just use the tennis center, for example. We have somebody leasing that, but they had to be a nonprofit. So it's easier for us to do that as opposed to vendors coming in trying to make money, which we're not opposed to by any means, but on Park District property, on taxpayer property. So I guess I as far as a change in policy, I think we tried to do the variance last year to see how it went. We're hearing that it went okay, but there wasn't a lot of examples to give. But maybe before we change policy, we let Josette work with Brent and Garrett on what would work, and maybe write a policy that works for the Park District as well as not just Josette, but other vendors too, if we have to change.
I want to give Josette a lot of credit, because I was out there that day, and she did a very nice job on it. I did see some people buy cigars, and they did smoke them out there. As somebody who's got asthma, who's really allergic to it, I didn't have any problems with it. So I guess I'm going to say it that way. If I don't have a problem where my wife doesn't have to stab me with the EpiPen, I think I'm in a good shape. So I'm giving Josette a lot of credit for being respectful out there. So.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I did ask everyone who purchased a cigar during that tournament, be respectful. Don't just take your cigarette butt or your cigar butt when you're done and just flick it like. And they said, we're not cigarette smokers. This is a treat for us to be out here on a beautiful Friday afternoon and enjoying this, and we'll take care of you, Josette, so that in turn, you hopefully can be back again next summer.
And I think you both hit it there. If we are getting complaints about smoke at our facilities, we have a responsibility to make sure that everybody can. So it's good that you're giving that education and asthma or not, EpiPen or not, that. So you understand how that works. If we get a bunch of complaints about people smoking on the patio, obviously that has to be a concern for us. So,
Yes.
So that education, I think, is key. So, I don't know. I don't. Other board members, what your thoughts are?
Cole, if we were to move forward with the motion, does it need to be two separate motions to not change our policy, but to have a separate motion to recommend Brent, Garrett?
I honestly don't think there needs
don't
to be
think
a
we need to
motion
make a
made.
motion
I think
to
it should
not
just be,
change it.
I think if we're understanding correctly, the direction would be to have Ms. Dupree work with Brent and Garrett on some language for the tournaments, and then bring back what they did for us. And
Maybe we make a motion to give some discretion to Brent and Garrett with our policy to trial run this for a year. But also part of that is that maybe keep it open. A tobacco vendor works with our tournament coordinators and the organizations coming in to do that. Something to that effect. I can see it kind of covers. But it also gives Garrett and Brent an opportunity to, hey, this is policy, but they have our support to look and see how that.
Yeah, and I think staff understands that. And just to kind of add one more additional point, there are people who bring their own cigars and cigarettes to the golf course.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like it's never happened out there. People do bring them from wherever they purchase them outside of the golf course. This would just be expanded a little bit for the tournaments is what we'd be looking at.
And that did come up last time you came about, it's not that people aren't smoking out there, but we're not selling it. The Park District isn't selling it. So at one time, I guess we did. But then the policy got put in. after that. Okay.
The other point I would see maybe coming up is that competitors see you having success with this, and then others are, it kind of opens up the door to other businesses wanting to come out and do the same thing. So we got to be a little cautious, I think.
Well,
in
and I
that
think that's,
regard.
we're covered in the fact that the organization that's putting on the tournament can work with her. So if there's big sticks, if there's another, they can ask them to come out and it can be looked at. So that's why I said tobacco suppliers, I guess, but so you think we're on the same page there. Yeah. Does that sound like an opportunity that we can?
That sounds
Work
like a
with.
wonderful opportunity. Like, for example, with DCAC last summer, we worked out an agreement that in turn I had made a donation of some items. I also owned a pre-firearms training, so I made a donation of some silent auction items. And my gift back to that organization was I did provide a situational awareness / self-defense course for their office. And that went very well too, and they were thankful for that. So it was a nice partnership back and forth with the organizations. How can I help you with either of my businesses and help make your event a success too?
Anything else for Josette? Would it be helpful with some direction with the motion, or do you think?
No, I think we have a direction, basically set up a internal with golf staff and along with Josette to try to figure out a way to be able to understand how you can work with tournaments that are being held there with those coordinators and come up with a fair assessment and address it case by case.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Josette.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Moving on to item 3, consider for approval 2024 matching grant requests. Hello, Kelly.
Hello, President Meshke and Commissioners. In your packet, you will find the 4 matching grant applications that we received for 2024. You'll see that they are the Soccer Club, the Bisman RC Club, the Huff Hills Foundation, and then also the Fast Pitch Association. These matching grants were taken to the Mandan Parks and Recreation Foundation Board, and the recommendation is as follows. The Fast Pitch Association would be awarded $3,000, the Bisman RC $1,000, and then the Mandan Soccer Club $1,000, and then Huff Hills we would not award anything. And then I'm here today to ask for your recommendation.
Any clarity on, I guess, as far as the Huff Hills, I don't think we're afraid, not that we don't want to sponsor activities, but it's on private property. That's one of
Yep, that's exactly it. I mean, I know there's a lot of consideration and a lot of discussion about Huff Hills, but we just couldn't consider them due to them being on private property. And then just a little background on the other 3. Fast Pitch Association, it is, of course, a new project coming forward. The $3,000 would be awarded if they were to complete their project this fiscal year. And then also the Bisman RC Club was awarded $2,500 in 2023. So that's why we capped it at $1,000 for this year. And then the Mandan Soccer Club is purchasing equipment. So that's why we capped it at $1,000, because we normally do $1,000 for equipment if we have the funds available.
So the foundation actually, we used to do this as a board, go through there, it'd come out of committee with recommendations. Now it goes through our foundation for various reasons. Just a couple things as far as, like, it has to be matching and it has to be complete before we pay out. Is that correct?
Yep. So they send me all the
Project has
receipts.
to be completed, not just half done.
Exactly. Yep, the project has to be completed in the fiscal year. They have to send me all the receipts, so their total project cost is the matching dollar amount. So then we go through those receipts to make
Have
sure
we ever had a
everything's done.
situation where it was not completed and they did not get paid?
Yes. So last year, I believe it was the football club that we did not receive any receipts from, so we didn't award them. And I believe this happens quite frequently.
Okay. Well, and I think that protects us. I mean, that we're not giving somebody money and that project isn't getting completed on our property, and obviously we want it to look nice. So as we look at all of those organizations, they have to run that through, those improvements through us anyway, so.
Kelly, who approves when it's done or completed? The only reason I'm bringing this up is because the RC people cornered me when they weren't ready, but
Yeah, and I know the RC Club approached us last year when they were near completion, and they ended up getting their project completed in the fiscal year. We really do it by just driving by or checking in the facility or checking in with the user group contact to make sure that it's done. And again, going through those receipts.
And then Commissioner Mutter, just to add, Dustin Fleck is highly visible and involved in making sure he's seeing those things. And then as they get completed, we do a tour of it. And then obviously Kelly's second year now doing matching grants.
Yep.
Yeah, so in our second year, but obviously getting out there and taking the pictures and seeing what's going on. So we definitely have a good pulse on what's taking place.
Any other questions for Kelly? How do you want to proceed?
I recommend awarding the matching grant to Fast Pitch Association in the amount of $3,000, Bizman RC in the amount of $1,000, and the Mandan Soccer Club in the amount of $1,000.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Mutter,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Freilich. Any further discussion? Okay, Commissioner Mutter,
Aye.
Commissioner Freilich,
Aye.
Commissioner Melhoff,
Aye.
Commissioner Scott.
Aye.
Aye from me as well. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 4, update to community engagement policies.
President Meshke and Commissioners, in your packet, you'll find updates to the policies for the recreation program, specifically youth and adult, and then also the marketing policies. I'll just touch base on a few of them. You can see all the changes are highlighted in yellow. Anything that's highlighted in blue will be moved more to Dave's section in facilities. The key ones to touch on, I believe it's on your 3rd page of the policies, is with the MAC program. This has come up this year with the new school with Lakewood. So basically, if anyone was to get redistricted, if they chose, as in they were to move, then they would be not placed on the wait list. Excuse me, not placed on the top of the wait list. But if the school redistrict them, they would be automatically in the program. So we put this in place is for just for our future. Again, we ran into it this year more with the Lakewood opening up. Another policy to touch on is on the following page. It's just talks about Discovery Camp. Basically, it limits ourselves where we need 9 kids enrolled in the program, or else we won't offer that program that day. There's very limited amount of changes to the marketing programs and policies. It just states that more of a photography policy in place, which I'm sure Commissioner Motter will like.
Yes, I did.
So I'm here today to ask for your approval on these policies.
Okay, board wishes, questions for Kelly? Board wishes, questions for Kelly?
I'll make the motion to approve the updates to community engagement policies.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Freilich,
Second.
second by Commissioner Scott. Any further discussion? Been a lively one. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Thank you, Kelly. Item number 5, update on annual joint meeting with Mandan Public Schools and agreement updates.
And President Meshke and Commissioners, just so you know, next month, we will be having other departments have their policies. So each year we review them, and then we kind of bring them as they come. Some departments may not have any major changes to them, so we won't present those. We'll only present the ones that we have changes to. So next month you'll see, I believe, the facilities, and I think park operations had some small ones. So just so you know, that's coming up each month here. Just an update, it was in your packet, kind of a copy of the minutes related to our joint powers meeting with the school district and the park district. We do this every year. We utilize each other's facilities, so it's always good to get together the administration and staff to kind of talk about the ins and outs of how things are operating and then to update our joint powers agreement. And as you know, this year, there's a big change happening with the new high school getting constructed and the usage of the site where the All Seasons Arena sits at today. So in the agreement, really the only thing that changed in the agreement was the usage of the school district, and we realize that it's going to be a fluid date. What we agreed upon right now is how the All Seasons Arena works, is that all expenses are shared 50-50, and then we divide those costs out, 50-50, excuse me, and then we share accordingly as what the potential expenses would be. So some years we've had to pay more to the park district, or excuse me, the park district had to pay more to the school district, and this year was a very minute amount because we had some additional breakdowns at the All Seasons Arena that brought our expenses up. So at the end of the day, our goal is to hopefully cash flow that facility with expenses shared equally by the school and the park district, because it is a joint venture. With the school district moving out, as you can see, those shared costs are only going to go through August of 31st of 24. Now, we realize that if this new high school is not completed, we hope it will be, then they will utilize that facility into September, October, or however is needed. So we realize we will be fluid with that date. We just put a date in there for now as far as shared costs so that we had a target to move to. As another added note with that, the goal is to have everything moved out of the all-season arena that the school district has in there today. So in the upper level, they have a weight room, they have a wrestling room, and then lower level, they had a lot of items for their physical education and athletic teams where they have storage in our locker rooms. We're going to work through the summer and into the fall to hopefully get all that equipment relocated and sent up to the new high school when that date allows. We are working with the wrestling club about potentially leasing that site. It is to be determined if they're going to go to the new high school for a wrestling room or they're going to use the upper level of the All Seasons Arena as they currently do today under the free use of the school joint powers agreement. So those are what's changing with the All Seasons Arena. The other component that we talked about was the actual site, meaning where's our property lines going to be dedicated, because right now we sit on school property, how that piece is going to be left. We talked about anywhere from 20 to 50 feet easement around the perimeter of our building, because we don't know what's going to get built there. We have to get equipment in there to move snow and relocate it. So we don't want to basically put a 10-foot easement in and then we don't have room to get equipment in there or to move the snow. And right now today we have, as you know, there's that large alleyway that leads between the school and the All Seasons Arena. We kind of like that dimensions is what we kind of use so that we can get equipment in there. And then what we're trying to figure out is what the topography will look like once it's all tore down. You know, how much of the footing is going to come out? Are we dropping the elevation down? What is going to be the final footprint? That's to be determined. If you look at that site, the All Seasons Arena is way down here and the high school is way up here. So how do we figure out what the topography is going to be once the new high school is tore down? And then the footings, and then we know there are some water table issues that we're working with. So we're trying to determine, obviously, if we are doing some topography and some removal of earthwork, we want to put some drain tile around that All Seasons Arena, which again, we set aside money in our long-term capital improvement plan for 2025, I think, or 26, but at least we know we have dollars set aside. We may have to amend that and talk about those options when that time happens. We know that the school's got to open. We know it's probably going to be another year or possibly longer before the existing high school is tore down. A lot of moving parts for the school district. I don't envy them right now, as I've been through that with the Star and Sports Complex. A lot of moving parts and a lot of questions and no answers at this time. So I just wanted to give you guys the update. We, as the Park District, will continue to operate it. We have just offered a position to an internal candidate. I think April 1st is when he's going to start. Thomas Krebs has worked for us at the All Seasons Arena, Star and Sports Complex, and Raging Rivers for about 8-9 years as a seasonal employee, part-time. And now we offered him position, so he will come on full-time for us, and he'll be at the All Seasons Arena. Kind of a utility employee between Raging Rivers and the All Seasons Arena. That full-time employee was put in the 24 budget, approved by the board for a new position there. So overall, I think we have a pretty good idea where we're headed with the All Seasons Arena. Staffing and usage and that nature will continue to be a fluid motion as we kind of go through this fall, and obviously working into the spring of 25. Any questions you have for me on the All Seasons Arena?
It was Commissioner Mutter and Commissioner Fraley. So I know we're putting 50,000 a piece in there. Was that talked? I know we at one point we had at one point $500,000 in there, and it helped with our parking lot. Obviously, that was a good joint venture. Was there talk about using any of this money if we get? I hate all that money sitting in there that can be used for something. Is there talk about either reducing that 50,000 to less, or any projects that we want to do jointly with that money? It'll be About 280 the next time we deposit money.
Right, so we each just put in 50,000 this year, so there'll be another 100,000 going into there as you, well, excuse me, yeah, there'll be another $100,000 going in there. We do have a project, I don't remember the exact number, Dave, but we have some, I call it the ninth lane, but outside of the track, yeah, $83,000 worth of expenses of repairs to that track. That was already been approved out of this, so we'll be utilizing those funds.
Okay.
Then we have the outdoor tennis courts that'll be getting resurfaced, and we try to want to tie in the pickleball courts with that so that we're resurfacing them at the same time, not using these funds for pickleball, but just for the tennis center. And I agree with you. I think we maybe will be able to reduce those once we kind of figure out where the pool's going. That discussion, I think, was the biggest topic is where's a brand new pool going to happen?
Because that could be spent tomorrow. I mean, it
Right.
could be- I understand that, but
The
that's.
existing pool, I think, is our biggest concern is there is issues related to that facility and what the costs are going to be. This is going to be a fund that we're going to tap into first before we go, and those dollars could be quite expensive.
Cole, did you give the wrestling group or a deadline of yes or no for the upstairs or? End of April. End of April? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Cole. Thanks, guys. Item number 7, 2023 annual report. Oh, sorry, let's do item 6. Consider 2023 budget transfer to the 2024 budget.
President Meshke and Commissioners, I would like to present tonight some recommended budget amendments for the 2023 fiscal year. As you are probably aware, state law does require that expenditures cannot exceed the total budgeted appropriations at the fund level. And during 2023, we had 2 funds where we exceeded the budgeted appropriations. The first one is in the Special Assessment Fund. Expenditures exceeded the budget by $35,529. And in 23, also in the Raging Rivers Fund, expenditures exceeded the budget by $97,718. And I had also provided in your packet a schedule of these, also with the reasons for them. The Special Assessment Fund, we just had estimated numbers for the costs to the tennis center parking lot and 16th Street and the financing, how that was all going to play out. And so because of the estimate, we didn't know for sure what it was going to cost, but there was sufficient dollars within the fund reserved to cover that overage this year. And in the Raging Rivers Fund, the cost of operations increased just because of busy summer again at the water park. And so the total revenue at the water park offset the cost of those increased expenditures. So that is the first part of my request, is to approve those budget amendments. The second part is to approve budget transfers from the 2023 budget into the 2024 budget. And that would be just for items that were started in 23 and not completed until this coming year of 2024. And those would be the projects that we have currently going on. Our park maintenance shop, the Memorial Ballpark lighting was not completely finished at the end of the year. Ferris Field, baseball complex, the boat ramp, and then we also have some continuing education expenses that were approved last year and that we would like to finish up this year. So all of those are outlined on the spreadsheet with the total amounts that were already approved that we'd like to transfer expenditures to the next year. And a few items listed too are the offsetting revenues to help fund some of these. We also want to transfer those to the next year, which is 2024. So I am just asking for your approval to approve the budget amendments as presented and the budget transfers as presented. Do you have any questions for me?
Okay, anything for Terry? Entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the proposed 2023 budget amendments to the Special Assessments Fund and Raging Rivers Fund, as well as the proposed 2023 to 2024 budget transfers as presented.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Melhoff,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Mutter. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, now we'll go to the annual report. Item number 7, annual report. Should have a handout Cole gave you here. Cole, is this on the website too, or not yet? Or-
It will be after tonight.
It will be after this meeting, okay?
Okay, we should be good to go here. Obviously, if we get, yep, there's the report up on the computer. So the PowerPoint's a little bit different than what you have in front of you as far as a handout. We use that handout that Kelly puts together as an opportunity to share with some of our presentations that we give periodically throughout the year, and people coming to kind of know what we are all about. But overall, the 23 report, just want to thank Terry and her staff. We do a good job of contracting all of our projects and things that we go on, and I echo that because our operations, as you're going to see, definitely are only in that $9.5 to $10 million, but we're doing about 13, sometimes $14 million worth of projects that goes on to other people's responsibilities and still doing their day-to-day. So I just want to make sure that we're aware that the numbers are definitely higher, but it's due to some of the construction, the pledges that we have going on. So wanted to kind of give you guys some recognition in our PowerPoint, get to see your fancy faces and professional headshots. But overall, we just want to say thank you for your guys' efforts and your faith and support that you guys do in our projects like we just did with the baseball club. I mean, we put together a lot of information, and you as commissioners are the ones that are supporting us and approving these things. So these things don't get done without your guys' support. We're going to kind of tag team this. Terry's going to take the financials, and I'll kind of give a summary on some others.
Thanks, Cole. So the first slide, we're showing the total revenue and total expenditures district-wide for 2023. And when you've got as much going on as we have had, it's hard to put that all into one little pie for the revenue and the expenditure. And I just wanted to point one thing out. The total revenue is showing here at $13.5 million with the total expenditures at $12.5 million. That does not mean that we made $1 million profit this year. What that is basically the timing of revenue recognition versus expenditures. The big one here was the loan or bond proceeds, for the park maintenance shop. That bond was $1.845 million. We recognize that as revenue in 2023, but half of it at least is yet to be incurred in expenditures, and that will happen in 2024. And since those expenditures have not happened yet, the construction is still in progress, we are not able to recognize them in the same year as we're recognizing the revenue in the loan to pay for them. So I just wanted to clarify that. Also, as Cole said, with all the projects going on, the numbers are high. Included in the revenue, we have $2.3 million in pledges and donations received in 2023, and that's a testament to our partnerships with so many user groups and also the fundraising efforts that have been put forth for these projects. In addition, we have $600,000 in government grants received this past year and matching funds. And so that helps make up the revenue. And then in the expenditures, you're going to see $4.4 million of costs incurred for these projects improvements and $2.2 million in debt repayment on some of them. So that's kind of the big picture for the Park District.
So kind of giving you an overview of what our personnel was this year. So as you know, we only have 23 full-time employees. We just increased that for 24. We got 3 new positions that we created. But when you see 283 seasonal employees who we hire, obviously through April through about September, October, and then we do have a few that work year-round, but it comes out to be over 65,000 hours worked by our seasonal staff, which equates us to about 38 FTE equivalent. I think that's an important number to look at, is by having the opportunity to do seasonal employees, obviously there's the benefits and associated with the costs that we are saving. And I think it just kind of shows when you have that many seasonal employees, there's a lot of stress related to having part-time and seasonal employees. And obviously we know the condition of our community trying to get good quality employees, and we're all competing for them. So I do give credit to our staff and supervisors who are out there being creative and recruiting employees and filling the needs that we have. And we know lifeguards and after-school care and referees are always hard to find. But when you start seeing these numbers, it's pretty amazing what we're able to accomplish for us. And then again, volunteers, as you know, a lot of our youth programs are all with volunteer parents. 109 volunteers over 2,034 hours, which is equivalent to about a full-time employee that we utilize for our volunteers. So I thought that information was kind of eye-opening as far as what we actually do with how many people we operate with.
Well, I don't think we've ever had those volunteer hours up there. It's nice to see that because a lot of our programs, don't go because, and that's just our programs, not the baseball clubs and everybody else that we work with, so it makes it go.
And then just kind of a quick summary of some things as you kind of can see. The Mandan Tennis Center, obviously we got full year operation. You got the Dale Paulke Arena. We were at the NRPA conference for our award, or excuse me, NDRPA conference for our awards. You have some staff training. We have a donation for Mort Sport and Marine to the rodeo. So just a lot of things kind of just recapping the year that took place.
For the golf courses, this past year was another successful season with $2 million in revenue and $1.5 million in expenditures. And as you know, we've been trying to set aside some of the surpluses towards a future golf maintenance building. So far, there's $350,000 set aside for that.
And statistically, as you kind of can see, rounds obviously back in 21 to 2023 have slightly decreased. We were joking about a little bit this morning, that $62,000 might have been a little overinflated back then, but we do know that golf has definitely been on the increase since COVID, and that's great for us and the community in Bismarck, Mandan in general. But as you can see from 22 to 23, obviously a substantial increase there, and along with season passes continue to grow throughout the year. And then just kind of some highlights of some Dakota Junior Golf. That lower right picture was the donation to the back of the driving range that benefits all of the high school programs and gives us another tee box and an opportunity that was fully funded by Dakota Junior Golf. And you're just seeing some miscellaneous pictures associated with all of our staff who participated in a golf outing and some foundations, and then just being involved in our community.
So the financials for the park operations department also include the rodeo arena. And so this year, it's going to look a little bit inflated in revenue and expenses as well because of that large project. And within the revenue, you're going to see lots of rodeo revenue, pledges and donations, and then on the expense side, the rodeo debt. And the great thing also about that project is the entire project is funded through donations and pledges from user groups and individuals. It is not the Park District's expense at all for that rodeo project. So far, of the $2 million debt, $1.2 million has already been paid off because of those donations, and the entire debt should be paid off within the next 2 to 3 years. Also included here in the parks budget would be our shelter rentals and activity at the Dakota Centennial Park, the racetrack.
And then just from a statistical standpoint, you can see our shelter rentals. I remember a time when we weren't even renting shelters in the winter months, and now we just got so much more activities. And so as you can see, 409 shelter rentals. Obviously, there's 365 days in a year, but definitely shows you that every weekend and during the week, these outdoor shelters, or excuse me, indoor shelters are starting to get rented. We are looking at our master plan just to kind of understand when we move to the north, we have that 47 acres. That would be our next indoor shelter rental, and hopefully have the opportunity when that development comes. But it definitely is definitely a needed amenity for our community. Just kind of some quick highlights as we added, over 12,000 people attend the new rodeo arena this year. We had 20 motor sports events at Dakota Centennial Park. As you know, we did the rodeo arena, and also the new RC track is in construction. It was getting utilized this fall. The renovations aren't 100% complete, but the track had been. Community gardens are relocated over to Ferris Field. We expanded our community gardens from 60 to 80, and we have the ability to add more. We hosted 5 softball tournaments and 4 baseball tournaments, along with the new lighting we installed here at Memorial Ballpark, as Commissioner Mutter mentioned earlier with the LED lights. The tennis center had over 1,000 people in our K through 12 and youth and adult tennis lessons. So obviously we're reallocated our tennis lessons that were ran by the Park District now are being ran through that facility. I think it kind of ties in well. And then just another picture associated with some of our staff that we have in the Park District. I was teasing them all the park ones are leaning with their arms crossed, and all the recreation people were out working. But as you see, we have obviously painting the lines, and we actually approved this year to buy an autonomous line painter for our soccer fields and our baseball fields. So I told Dustin I want to be able to see side by side how straight the lines are with the autonomous painter versus our staff. But kind of a new addition, and I think that autonomous is going to continue to be. Lawnmowers are starting to come out there, so we're kind of see what that future brings for us. But we're starting it out with an autonomous line sprayer for this year.
Within the recreation department, you'll see half of our revenue is generated from the MAC child care program, and another 1/4 of the revenue is from the Mandan Tennis Center. And that is, as you are all aware, we do not operate the tennis center, but a separate LLC does and has a monthly lease payment that is made to the park district. That revenue is used to pay 100% of the debt for that facility, and so you'll also see that related expense on the expenditure side. The other facilities that are part of these recreation numbers are the Aquatic Center, the All Seasons Arena, and the Adult and Youth Recreation Programs.
And then just some quick highlights, as you can see. I'm not going to go through each one, but just some that kind of stand out as far as whether huge increases or slightly decreases. But really overall, I think from a park district standpoint, the trends are doing well. As you can see, Summer Mac, as you know, we added a new site this year, as Kelly asked of our policy to get amended, when with Lakewood Elementary opening up, and then adult basketball. The decrease in adult basketball was just basically 2 teams in our fall 4-on-4 league had decreased. So that's why those numbers decreased there. Our overall winter leagues have remained the same for many years. And again, we continue to see growth in our volleyball and kickball leagues. So just overall, I think from a recreational standpoint, our programs that we offer have been increasing every year. And as you kind of see when the elementary schools go and the population grows, obviously, when I've always said when we need new elementary schools, but we get the parents and the kids in our programs where the schools are getting the kids. So our adult programs and our facility uses definitely have seen the increase in our community. And then just some quick highlights, as you can see, just what we do throughout the year. And as we mentioned, there are 238 seasonal and part-time employees that we utilize. And these are just some of the pictures in our facilities.
At Raging Rivers Water Park, we had revenue of nearly $900,000 this year, and that was enough to cover all of the expenses of operating the facility this year, as well as covering the $250,000 debt payment. And side note, we have 2 more years left on that debt payment in 2024 and 2025, and that will be covered. And so it was not extremely profitable year, but again, enough to pay the expenses, and that's exactly what we're looking for here.
And statistically, as you can see, we do a great job of marketing our season passes, and we see an increase each year. And as we've had to make subtle increases to our pricing, obviously comes the expense of our staffing that we have. And that's our largest expense, is our staffing, trying to retain and keep. And we're always looking for employees for lifeguards or guest services, concession folks. And it's a big project that takes place in less than 90 days. And I give Dave free credit, who took it over this year. He didn't quit on me. He stayed with. So we appreciate his efforts. But this is his first year running it now that we've had our new facilities and got that under his responsibility. And then just some quick highlighted pictures of just some of our staff having fun while they work and just seeing the benefits there.
And the Starion Sports Complex had a record year with ice rentals. There was $265,000 generated in ice rentals. There is also $125,000 allocated from the Mandan Public Schools contribution towards the center for their facility usage. We also have the Dakota Star Gymnastics rent and concession commissions and open skate proceeds to help pay for the costs of operating this facility. The expenses are still a little bit higher than the revenue generated, but that is the nature of operating this expensive facility, but it's being managed really well, and we continue to increase in our ice revenue generated.
And just to add, we're in our 7th year of operation, and so you're starting to see some of the wear and tear in the usage. So we did have a few increases related to some building repairs and maintenance, and just that's why we took the pros consultant to get a handle on it, and that's where this facility component in making sure we have a handle on all of our O&M and equipment and replacements and rewinding and just general maintenance to make sure that we're operating. And then statistically, as you can see, as we mentioned earlier, ice rent just continues to grow, and we did a great job of promoting and getting those things in there as far as being flexible in usage. And the 2 sheets of ice are on. I believe we take the 1 sheet off right around May, first part of May. Second week of May, that second sheet comes off, and then we run with one for the summer, and we put the other one back on late August, early September. And there's just some pictures of our staff and new employee Jason Rings in that bottom right, and you can see some of the activities that take place in that facility. And then just statistically, just kind of giving you an idea, again, we're just rounding numbers here, but out at Dakota State Park, over 30,000, 44,000 attended Raging Rivers, and again, that's in 90 days or less. Starring Sports Complex, over 110, and that number is hard to indicate because we take the events of how many we have and the average attendance that we have, but we realize that number is probably a lot higher with all of our practices and activities that take place up there. Golf, as you mentioned, has been continuing to grow, and our youth and programs over 3,000. So the overall benefit and economic impact to our community has continued to just grow.
And as we've been talking about all these different projects going on, I've developed a spreadsheet here showing the various construction projects that we've started and completed. Some are still in process starting in 2022 and moving on forward, and you'll see the cost of all of those. And for total cost of all these projects, we're looking at, what, $22 million. But on the bottom in blue, you'll see the funding sources, and the great partnerships we've had with user groups have provided 2/3 of the cost covered for all of these. So user groups and pledge collections and so forth. I guess I can add to that the state grant funding, but that is made up 2/3 of the cost. So the Park District is only responsible for 1/3 of the cost of all of these projects. So that goes to show how we can accomplish a lot when we work together in the community.
Yeah, and I echo that, and that just, as I mentioned earlier in the beginning, is when you see $22 million worth of projects happening, it was supposed to be a slow construction year for us in our strategic plan, but when you get a lot of grant funding, you get opportunities, and you get user groups, like we mentioned, work well. I mean, you got $13 million that aren't going back on the taxpayers. Those are coming from our user groups and their gaming and their fundraising, and just the support that they give allows us to have the amenities that we have. And so I do want to continue to echo that, is that it's the relationships that we build, we're seeing the repercussions that we're getting it back in our assets for our park system. And then we just kind of broke it down so you kind of just see it in a different view. Over 1.1 put into Raging Rivers, again 5.7 in the Ferris Field and Youth Complex. The public boat ramp, as we know, is 1.6. We got a grant for 800,000. We have the city and county putting in 2/3 of the local match. And then the park shop, which we know has been an issue for us for many years, 3.1. We're roughly about 50% through that project and hopefully have it wrapped up by this May. The tennis center at 4.3, along with the arena 3.3, and those two projects were 100% covered by the leasee or the pledging associated with that. And the last is just our foundation. As you know, kind of our full fiscal year 23 was. We started in the spring, I think we said at 22, but really our full fiscal year. Really, just overall, the foundation has kind of helped with all the user group contributions and fundraising that's been able to come place. Keep that separate from our general operations. And you can see over 8,000 awarded to matching grants. Just under $1 million of capital campaigns. 19 kids were scholarshiped, and we had 28 teams in our foundation golf tournament. Again, just we're expanding as a park district, and we're growing. And I just want to say kudos to staff and the board for a great fiscal year. And any questions you may have for me?
Questions for Cole? Looks like you're going to talk.
I was going to. Well, I would like to say thank you to the staff as well. You guys are the main key behind us, and keeping us informed has been phenomenal. The question I had was on the University of Mary for the ice. I assume they just go under the basic ice rental part?
Correct. That is
that right?
correct.
Anything else for Cole?
Yeah. You want to go first? I was just looking at swimming lessons. Is that, it went down a little bit? Are we looking at, because of the swimming pool getting so old, or are we expecting that to change a little bit, or?
You know, a lot of it comes down to availability of guards to teach, and so you're limited how many people you can have in a class and the opportunities there. So that does have an indication of when we can offer and how many kids we can take. Dave may be able to expand on it a little bit further, but overall, I don't think it has anything to do with the pool itself. It's just a matter of the timing and the opportunities where, you know, parents are busy with other activities, and we can only offer so many classes because of the shortage of lifeguard instructors. It's easy to have a lifeguard, but to teach the classes, we're limited on what we can have, so we had to condense that.
Yeah, we had to consolidate some of the lessons this summer, just because we didn't have instructors. So it's just based on, if we have instructors, we can offer more classes. So it's not, yeah, it has nothing to do with really the pool itself. It's just availability of teachers and things like that.
Thank you.
Cole or Terry, I guess you indicated 2 years of debt remaining on Raging Rivers. Where are we at with Starion Sports Complex?
We were just talking about this today, and the original agreement was if we're going off our memory, was 25 years of debt on that, and because we've had sales tax collections that were high enough to pay extra, we are at least, what do we think, 8 to 10 years ahead of
We're,
schedule on
at a
that?
minimum, we're 8 years ahead of schedule.
So we will have further updates on that when we do our board retreat this summer, but I believe
Yeah, our debt service,
probably,
our debt service this year was just shy of 1 million. We brought in over 2.5 million in sales tax collection. So we are putting basically doubling our payment every year.
Thank you.
Just want to comment, a lot of good things going on. It's always fun to watch and see this annual report, just to see the community involved. We've had a couple of meetings here where we've been told we need to put the brakes on, or we need to slow down. One, it's really tough when you're partnering with somebody in the community that wants to get things done to make our community better. And we're not good at maybe saying no to that. But I do want to say to what Commissioner Scott said, it's you guys and it's us thinking about not just we're going to build this and then all of a sudden, how are we going to replace turf? Or how are we going to make sure that we maintain Starion Sport Complex? Even though they're not all money makers, we know that the parks are never going to make money, but we're not going to take those away, obviously. But we have a vision down the road that when that turf needs replacing, we're not raising taxes, 4 or 5 mills to pay for that. We have plans in place to do that. And kind of going back to I know mill levies can be construed however, but we're not raising the taxes in Mandan. House values are going up, taxable valuations going up. We're not doing that, and I think that when you look at that list of projects that we had on the back end there, and still be able to do it with the staff that we have. Even Pros Consulting says we should probably add some more. We're doing a lot with less, and we're looking to the future. We want to maintain these programs. We want to maintain the facilities that we have, and what you guys do is budget for surprises, and that's okay. And if we can keep providing these services and facilities to our community with a vision for the future and the partnerships for the future, we're doing a lot, and we should be proud of that. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
I was going to save that for my staff report, but I was in there. So, all right. With that, moving on to Commissioner and staff reports. Item number 8. Cole, anything else? Hey, Terry, Kelly, Dave.
Commissioners, just little information. We do have the conference tourney for University of Mary this weekend. 6 teams in town. It's just they're in Division 1 now, so they play in a conference tourney, and Mary's hosting it. So just letting you guys know that. And then I have the hours broken out for what Mary rents. So if anybody ever wants that information, I have that available too. So.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Mr. Mutter.
I've got 2 things. I know it's February but I'm already thinking about spring. Community gardens, if anybody wants to rent, it would have to go through the Morton County Extension Office to call them. But our staff, or the Park and Rec staff, takes care of it, so I want to make sure everybody knows that. And the other thing is, last Wednesday we did anybody who was interested in possibly being an elected official for City of Mandan, they had an LPI leadership meeting here that went online, and I was part of it, and it was very successful, and I want to thank J.C. Warner, Lori Langane, Carrie Schmidt, Madison Cermak, Kelly, and Cole for all the work that they did on that, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Freilich.
I've got nothing.
Mr. Meloff.
No report.
And Commissioner Scott.
No report.
All right. We will move on to number 9. Authorization to pay our monthly bills.
I'll make a motion to authorize payment of the monthly bills.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Freilich,
Second?
second by Commissioner Scott. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Future meeting dates for the Mandan Park Board Commissioners, our next regularly scheduled meeting right here on March 11th at 5:30 in City Hall. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Melhoff,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Freilich. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.